Robertson County. If you're not from Robertson County and you're catching it, well, we talk a lot about things that interest folks outside of Robertson County, and today is one of those days. It is one of those things. If you are in the United States of America, you're going to want to know what's coming up, because we are on the edge of Constitution Week here in America. And it's one of those things that people just don't really fully understand. It's something I take very seriously. I had a very short political career, and one of my big things is remember where we came from and what our foundations were. And so I love that we have this focus. So when Becky Wall reached out to me, it took us a while to kind of get our heads together because we're all busy. I'm going to get you to pull that microphone right to you and talk right into the front of it for me.
Okay.
And good morning, Becky.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
Excellent.
So glad to have you in the studio with me this morning.
Thank you.
And I told you we were sitting and talking as we're getting ready, and we were talking about things that go on in high school, because I'm a high school teacher, and we do all these audio video projects, and I was up kind of late last night working on the kids' news, but got that going. But I'm always looking for something different to do. And with Constitution Week coming up, I've got to do an audio project. And so I'm going to have the kids put together a voiceover package with the Constitution. I found it very abbreviated, just kind of a bullet point of the amendments.
Right.
And then I'm going to do the preamble, and I'm going to have one of my really good broadcast kids record that stuff, and we're going to kind of jumble it up, and they're going to have to rearrange it. And then
that'll be neat.
And then put it with some video, and stuff like that. So that's our project tomorrow and part of this week. And so we'll have some of that to push out for the school next week, because people just, the civics teachers, the history teachers, they'll look at it, but we all need to look at it. So I was like,
That's
how can
true.
I bring this into my audio video curriculum? And with you coming in, you reminded me, so thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
And I love that you're part of the Daughters of the American Revolution.
That's
DAR. Correct. And so there's several different. When you first reached out to me and said, "Hey, we need to talk about Constitution Week," and I looked at your name and I thought, okay, there's different ones that I know that give out constitutions and do different things. My friend Debbie Keenan, they do the Let's Talk Trash magazine every year, and it includes the Constitution for September.
Right.
And so they do all that. So all these different things. And I had never talked to any of you guys from DAR about Constitution Week. So is this something that y'all do every year, that y'all do a big promotion with it, or what are we doing this week?
We do.
Okay.
I am with the local chapter, the Charlotte Reeves Robertson chapter here in Springfield.
Okay.
And every year we have Constitution Week. Constitution Week came about from the National DAR. They petitioned the President Dwight Eisenhower because they thought that the Constitution was so important that we would have a whole week of emphasis on the Constitution. And so that's how it got started. I am the Constitution Week committee chairperson for Charlotte Reeves Robertson chapter.
Okay.
So every year now I do several things for Constitution Week. Okay. You as a teacher might realize something. I do a teaching plan that I submit to the Robertson County Board of Education for middle schoolers.
Okay.
And once it's approved, then it goes out to all the schools in Robertson County so that the teachers have a little guideline to teach about the Constitution. I have lots of different facts and things like that, but I also have some fun things for the kids to do. Okay. This year, 4th grade is learning about the Constitution. And so I submitted a teacher plan, and the week of Constitution Week, which is next week, the kids will be learning in 4th grade about the Constitution.
Well, see, and that's one thing that, because I'm a career teacher, I do audio video. And so the curriculum that is set where you learn this in middle school, you learn this in ninth grade, you have those things. And so middle school is really when you have that drill down on the Constitution.
That's
And
true.
What about in the high school years? Do you have it? Because I know I've heard different history teachers, and my husband teaches criminal justice.
Right.
And so he has stuff all over, he puts stuff up in the room about the different amendments and things like that. So they're talking about this stuff all the time.
Right.
And so I know that they have the refreshers and things like that through high school, but is there actually a year where it's like, okay, we're going to we're going to go back over the Constitution with our sophomores, or is it pretty much middle school when the big focus?
Well, I will say that the Robertson County Board of Education is the one who determines that.
Oh,
And
okay.
this year, it's the 4th grade. I think
Okay.
last year it was the 6th grade. And so, and I've never had a high school plan to make.
Okay.
So I'm sure that they must touch on it a little bit, particularly during the Constitution Week, but I don't know anything specific for that.
Okay, and it's
Okay.
one, and I am astounded at how few people really understand what the Constitution's about and understand what the amendments mean, and that spend any time with it. And that's the foundation of our country.
It
It's
is.
just, it's not. We don't spend enough time with it. We really don't.
We don't.
Mm-mm.
It's been over 200 years ago that the Constitution was even thought of. And when our forefathers came and they decided that they needed to be their own country, they came up with this document that tells us what our government is supposed to be like. There's rules, there's guidelines, there's all kinds of things in the Constitution that make our country what it is. And I do believe that it's very, very important for kids, I don't care how old they are, to understand that the Constitution is a living document. It doesn't change very much. We've got, I think, 27 amendments to the Constitution. In just a few years after the Constitution was signed, we had the Bill of Rights.
Right.
And those were the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. But as we grow as a country, things can change. We do have 27 amendments now. And so it's not easy to change it, but the changes have been good for our country.
For the most part.
For the most part. There you go. There you go.
For the most part.
I'm
not real crazy about 17. That's the one where the senators are elected by popular vote. I actually have, and I'm cheating. I've got the list in front of me because I'm working on something for school. But 17 is one, that's one of those that, and of course, when we had prohibition and all of that, and I mean, whether you agree with that or not, it wasn't, it caused all kinds of, nefarious things to happen and bootlegging and all of that crazy stuff.
True.
And so, you have to look at the repercussions. 17 is one I don't like at all. I don't, because that's not what senators are supposed to be. Senators are supposed to be elected by their state governing bodies to go and protect the rights of the states. They're not supposed to be a popularity vote in your state. That's not what that's about. You're supposed to have them put in place by the people who are running your state, who know what's going on. And I mean, I think that would be a wise decision to overturn that one. Don't see it happening. But, and I'm just, the last one, we had the last amendment in 1992. I just looked that up.
Yes.
And I didn't realize it had been that long. Of course, there's all kinds of things that people have been, pushing around where they're wanting to put in term limits and different things like that. And convention of states, everybody's trying to, there's just all kinds of things. But if you don't understand what the Constitution is about, when somebody comes up and says, I think we need to have a convention of states, you're like, what? What is it?
Yes.
But you have to have a consensus across the nation to say, yes, we need to get together and we need to fix this. And there's so many nuances to that people don't understand. So
it's very interesting that our government sometimes is the one who wants to make the changes.
True.
And usually it leans toward one side or another.
Oh, really? No, not in America. Come on.
But we have that right
Yes,
because
we do,
of the Constitution.
Yes, we do.
And so, we may not like everything that happens in our government, but the Constitution itself gives us a guideline. The men who penned it had to have been amazing, and I do believe that they were Christians. They thought God would give them the information that they needed to put this together. Mm-hmm. It was not done just haphazardly.
Oh, no.
And I don't know if you know, Thomas Jefferson is the one who is credited with writing the Constitution, mm-hmm. but there were 5 men who actually got together and came up with the Constitution. He wrote it out. Mm-hmm. And so he gets most of the credit for it.
Right.
But they wanted to be led by a bigger force than they were. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes through in the Constitution. I think they wanted it to be fair because they came from England where it wasn't so much fair. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to make sure that everybody was the same. This state or that state or this area of the country did one thing and this did another thing. That's not how the Constitution reads. Mm-hmm. It's one for all and all for one, mm-hmm. so to speak.
Right.
And so it's an important document, and we really do need to know mm-hmm. what it says, what it means, what impact it has on us as citizens of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah. And we're talking with Becky Walsh. She is with Daughters of the American Revolution, DAR. And we're coming up on Constitution Week. And it's, if you haven't spent any time just kind of reading through the Constitution, pull it up, take a look at it. You might be surprised what's in there, things that will surprise you. And especially if you have any kind of influence on young people, they need to be reminded that we've got a beautiful Constitution. And like you said, it was not written haphazardly. Thomas Jefferson didn't just go off in a room. There was a committee that worked on it. He gets credit, like you said, but they prayed about this. They were men of God.
That's right.
And there's so many that as they brought it together, it's based upon what they found in Scripture and the guidelines they found in Scripture.
Right.
People just don't, they think that's just not true, and you're just not studying, and I tell people you can find verification for anything you want to believe, but if you really want the truth, you've got to really be seeking it. And if
That's
you really
true.
seek the truth, you're going to see the truth of these men. They were not perfect, but they were godly men, and they were trying. And I know it took us a long time to get the whole slavery thing right. That was ridiculous.
It did.
And there were some good men that were. People don't realize that there were state laws that would prohibit you from freeing slaves. And they had to, it's just when you look at the nonsense that goes on in Washington now, and you've got to do this to do this and this to do, it's just it's ridiculous and it's frustrating, but that's what they were dealing with early on too.
That's true.
In the slave issue. And there's so much to learn. And I just love that we have a week that's going to be focused on it. And I think when you just said that I did not realize it was the National Daughters of the American Revolution that brought this on and then submitted. And you said, what year was it that they started this?
Hold on a minute. I've got the little thing. The DAR initiated the observance of Constitution in 1955. Okay. They petitioned Dwight Eisenhower, and he made it Constitution Week.
Okay.
And so we've been celebrating it for a long time.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, very good.
Yeah.
And do you know Debbie Keenan with the Keenan Group and the little Let's Talk Trash magazines that come out?
I do not.
Oh, you need to check that out because
Yeah.
they put out one. They put it out probably 4 times a year. I forget. I need to call Debbie and get her in here because Constitution Week's always a big one for them because they have the Constitution in this publication.
Right.
It's kind of like you remember the Highlights magazine.
I do.
And the things like that. It's kind of like that, but it's a newspaper that comes out for our schools, and it has Constitution in it, and it's just the cutest thing. And
That's
it's just,
neat.
It's
That's
really
real neat.
It's really neat. But she's been doing that for a while now. But and it's just a wonderful thing that they put out for our schools.
You know, you said something about our children really need to know about the Constitution. This week and next week, that's what I like to focus on. Okay, I will be reading to preschoolers about the Constitution this week at the Cross Plains Museum.
Okay.
And then later on next week, I will be talking to homeschoolers at the Stokes Brown Library in Springfield.
Oh, that'll be fun.
It is. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. At our reading in Springfield, we're going to have a mock election for our homeschoolers. So I mean, you know, the Constitution sets up an awful lot of things about elections, and so I think it'll be a wonderful thing.
Oh, yes.
I've got a lot of stuff going on in this next week or two, and a lot of interest in it. I have invited several of the city mayors to come and sign a proclamation for us.
Oh, cool.
Saying that we support Constitution Week, okay? And there are other DAR groups in the area that do the same thing. White House has another chapter. They will have a proclamation signing. Portland has a proclamation signing. I know these things because I've been invited to come to those proclamations.
You're gonna be busy.
I am going to be busy.
Yeah.
We will also have a display at the library. As you walk in the door, you go through the double doors, go past the desk, and through the next double doors, and there will be a display about Constitution Week. It will have lots of little bits of information. I will have on my Facebook page and on our DAR Facebook page, I will have some interesting facts about the Constitution, one every day during Constitution Week.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
And that's on the DAR page.
that is.
How do we find you? Just how are you listed in there?
Becky Wall. The DAR is just DAR.
Just DAR.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it'll be on the DAR page and your page.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay.
And then there is a national bell ringing day that goes along with Constitution Week.
Okay.
I guess the 17th, there will be bell ringing across the United States. The DAR and I guess the president said, this is something that we need to do. And so they ring a bell. It's usually a church bell.
Okay.
Church bells all over the United States on the 17th of this month at 5 p.m. our time will all ring their bells for a minute. Okay? And so if you go to church and you've got a church bell, then it would be wonderful if at 5 p.m. on that day you ring your church bell. All the churches around the United States, not just here, are going to be ringing a bell for Constitution Week. Now, I have a bell ringing ceremony at my church, Hopewell Baptist Church, on Sunday the 15th at 5:30. We're going to, our little RAs and GAs are going to help me with a bell ringing ceremony, and we're going to ring our bell on Sunday. I will be back at the church on the 17th to ring the bell. And then on the 22nd of this month, the state has a bell ringing ceremony at the Capitol.
Okay.
At 2:00 in the afternoon, and they'll have a little program, and then they'll have a bell ringing there. So that's another thing that we do with our DAR to help support the Constitution.
So you've sparked a kind of question in me because
Okay.
the bell ringing. When did that start and
Oh,
why?
gosh.
And I have my take on why they do it. As I'm thinking, I think, well, this is that's how they made announcements. People don't realize that. I have a
Exactly.
farm bell,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on my property.
Uh-huh.
And people don't realize when you see these old farm bells, they didn't have telephones.
That's right.
So if you wanted to communicate something, you rang the bell. And so I'm certain whenever they, the Constitution said they came out, they rang a bell. They was, we're done. I mean, there was that's how you communicated. I could tell a lot of stories I've heard about bell ringings and communicating and stuff growing up in the country and on farms and stuff because they were just a big deal to my family. And so that's how you made an announcement. That's how you knew either, something important was happening or you had an emergency. And, that's why you ring it. And I think that's got to be the reason why they do it.
I'm sure that
ceremony.
I do not know exactly when the bell ringing came in, and I'm not sure on how it got started, but I'm positive that in the time period when the Constitution was, when it came about, just like you said, that was how they alerted the people around that there was something important going on. And if you heard the bells ringing, then you went to where everybody congregated at the time so that you could hear the news, whatever it was. And so the bell ringing was important for important information. As Constitution Week is a very important thing, the United States, all across the land, is going to have a bell ringing to put that emphasis on the Constitution.
Do we know whether or not they're going to be ringing the bell here in downtown, in our Springfield, with the renovations at the courthouse? I wonder. I wonder if that is the bell ringing?
I do not know if that bell is ringing. And what I do for bell ringing is through the DAR, I encourage all of our members who go to church, who have a bell in their church, because not everybody does have a bell, to check with their church and find out if they can't ring the bell.
Right.
I do it at Hopewell. I know several people do it in Springfield at their local church.
Right.
I do not know if anybody else is ringing the bell.
At the courthouse, because
Yeah.
to me that would be a logical thing. But now our courthouse is under distress right now,
Yes.
and it's under renovation because of
Yes.
some leaks. So I don't know if anybody lives in town that has noticed, is the bell still ringing? Because with them having a lot of things shut down, I don't know that
I've not heard
I'm not
it.
into
so,
downtown square enough to say, oh yes, it rings. Because I would think if you're there, you would notice it.
You would
but-
notice. That's
yeah,
true.
But I would love
That's
if,
true.
if our courthouse bell is ringing right now. That would be really cool for that to be a part of that.
It would be.
So that's
would
really
be.
neat. Let me take a break. We're talking with Becky Walsh. She is with DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution, and they do a lot of great work. I just love that we have a local chapter, and it's something my daddy wanted my sister and I to be a part of. He had us trace back, because you've got to have a link to the revolution to be a part.
This is true.
Yeah, you have to know your ancestry. And so my dad had tracked our ancestry. He goes, y'all could be members of the DAR. And we're like, what? This is back years ago. And I'd never gone through the process of doing it, but I think it's something that would be you'd learn a lot. You would learn a lot,
You
and
do.
you'd stay plugged into what's going on in our country. And I talk a lot about how I've kind of checked out of the political scene, but I was reminded yesterday that you do have to still stay informed. And absolutely right. You have to vote. You have to stay
Amen.
informed. You have to know what's going on. I just don't like to engage in all of it right now. But anyway, that's beside the point. But Constitution Week, we just don't spend enough time really appreciating what our country was founded on and really understanding it. And there's just so many people with an agenda that distort it and make it something that it's not. And it's just not that hard. And I love that we have a week that's focused on that. So we're going to continue talking with Becky Wall with DAR, but we do need to pause and talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. I guarantee you they were busy this weekend. They're always busy. There's something going on in the real estate community constantly with, interest rates moving around. And, when everybody says, okay, well, interest rates are high. Is this a good time to buy? It's always a good time to buy because what happens, Barry and Rebecca have explained it to me, is when the interest rates go up, the home prices go down. When the interest rates are low, the home prices go up. So it balances out either way. And you just, it's always a good time to buy because they're not making no more real estate. When it comes to land, especially, if you get an opportunity to buy some land, consider it because, man, it's just, it's getting really hard to find in this area. And we have people constantly trying to talk us out of our land and we ain't going anywhere. But if you're somebody that's looking to maybe downsize, Rebecca, she's one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. And one of the things she specializes in is folks that have land and maybe their kids moved away and they're getting older and they're like, maybe I need to downsize. Maybe I need to do this. She can look at all that and help you with all the nuances of that and the full understanding of what that means for you, especially as you're getting older. Barry is a marketer. That is priceless in the real estate community when it comes to making sure property is seen in the light that it needs to be seen so you get the best dollar for everything that you have on the market. He's going to make sure people see it in the absolute best light with drone footage, walkthrough tours, photography, videography, and they specialize in Robertson County properties because they're cross-Planians. They've been there for nearly 30 years, but because they're a diverse background, they have worked all over. They specialize, again, in Robertson County properties, but buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky because, like me, they are from Kentucky. So they get that as well. So well-rounded, great folks to work with. He's the broker here in Springfield for the Exit Prime office, and she is a realtor that has an office in White House. They can help you in anything that you have going on. If you want to reach out to them, go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com, or just call Becky, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Always let them know that you turned sent you. And now back to Becky Wall. And are you I just thought, well, I just wondered, y'all might be cousins. So, and you're part of the DAR chapter. Which chapter is it?
It's the Charlotte Reeves Robertson chapter here in Springfield.
What does that mean, Charlotte Reeves Roberts? What's the background on the name?
She and her husband were wealthy individuals here in Springfield.
Okay.
And they were descendants of Revolutionary War fighters.
Okay.
And they lived right here in Springfield, right on Fifth Avenue at the Glenn Memorial Building. Okay. They owned it. And then they dedicated it to Springfield for
ladies clubs meet.
For ladies clubs to meet in. One of those clubs is the DAR.
Okay.
Now she had ancestry back to the Revolutionary War, and so it was important to her to have a place where women could meet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I had heard that before, but I just wanted you to kind of, because it's people here, it's like, what does that even mean?
Right.
This is the name of our chapter. But it's the people who founded it.
That's
and got
correct.
It started. And they also, that house that, and just like DAR and other clubs that meet there, y'all have fundraisers to keep that house up to speed and maintained. Right?
We do.
Right.
We do.
And that's an interesting, and I mean, that's been a thing for years and years and years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's been around. So
yeah.
it's a cool place to plug in if you're new.
It is.
If you're new in the county, and you want a place to plug in, that'd be a really good place to go get to know some folks. And see
You
what's
said
going
that your dad always wanted you to be in the DAR. My aunt wanted me to be in the DAR.
Okay.
Okay. And I thought it was an old woman's club. And I didn't think that I was old enough for that.
That's funny.
When I retired, I said, well, I think I'd like to look into that.
Okay.
And my aunt had just recently passed away.
Okay.
And so she did my research. All I had to do was prove that I was the next in line.
Okay.
Okay. But you do have to research, find a Revolutionary War person that you're related to. And then you have to document it. It's not just from your say-so.
Yeah.
It has to be documented. Once it's documented, you can join.
Yeah.
And I did that. My maiden name is Johnson, and my Revolutionary War person is Henry Johnson. He's the one that I came into the DAR on.
Okay.
And I have 7 Revolutionary War ancestors that I can also document.
Okay.
And
that's
so
cool.
it is. I did find out after joining the DAR, and I got very interested in ancestry, I found out that my 5th great-grandfather, Jacob Zeck, was one of the founders of Hopewell Baptist Church, and that's where I go to church.
That's cool.
It is.
That is neat. That is neat. So my daddy loved all that stuff.
Oh,
he loved looking at ancestry.
It's so interesting, and I do believe that it is important for us to know about some of the people that were our ancestors and what they did for our country, and that it was important to them. It should also be important to us. And so I think the DAR is a wonderful organization that puts emphasis on that.
You know, and so we have gotten to be so superficial in that we don't look ahead to what's coming beyond us. And they constantly did. They were constantly looking at what they were leaving. And that's something that we've lost we've lost the I don't know, the heart for that. And we've just gotten so into ourselves and, you know, selfish in a way. And we're like, well, as long as I'm okay now, and you're just not really planning ahead for what's going to be coming down the road. And I mean, you think about the sacrifices of those who came here first.
Oh, yeah.
And what they gave up. I know a lot of immigrants, and I have when I watch their families leave everything because they want something better for. I have a lot of friends from Egypt, a lot of friends, and to see them, you know, they in the immigration lottery, and if they get, you know, drawn for lottery, they have to leave everything.
That's right.
Everything, and come with nothings a lot of the times, and they're just, you know, struggle. But to see these families sacrifice so much just because they want something better for their kids, it's breathtaking to watch. But that's what our ancestors did, and my husband's family, you know, I think I go way back too, and so I don't know as much about the when they first got here, but I know my husband's history. They came into Ellis Island from Bohemia, and so when you see that, and it kind of makes it more tangible. And knowing my Egyptian friends, it makes it more tangible. But that's what our ancestors did.
That's
at
correct.
the founding of the country, and they came into wilderness.
and
then had to, you know, take up arms against it. It's incredible when you really understand the stories and the things that happened. It's breathtaking.
Well, you know, that's exactly what the framers of the Constitution did.
Yeah.
They did not live here for 100 years and then decide to do this.
No.
They came from a place that there were so many restrictions on how they worshiped, taxes, I mean, just lots and lots of things like that. And because they came from that, they wanted a better place for themselves and their future generations. Just like you said, we've lost some of that. We don't look at the laws that we're trying to change now in a way that says, what's this going to do to affect our future? That was their only concern as they put this together.
Is what's going to come.
Yes.
What's going to come.
Yes.
A republic if you can keep it.
There you go.
A republic if you can keep it. But we're talking with Becky Wall, and she's with DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution. Next week, if you have not realized, is Constitution Week. She's got just a whole litany of events because they work primarily, DAR works to put curriculum together for the fourth graders. And if if something that she said has interested you, I've got a feeling you'll be different places where people can come and talk to you. Do you want to kind of go through your calendar? You did just a bit. Why don't you kind of go back through your calendar for me?
Okay.
And then I do have one more break we have to take, but it's 20 till, Becky. I mean, we'll be out of time before you know it.
That's true.
So.
Okay, so I do have a proclamation that was signed by our governor, sent to our DAR. During the week of the 15th through the 21st, there will be a display at the Stokes Brown Library here in Springfield. I have the privilege of reading my preamble at my Federation Board meeting at the Glen this week. I will be talking to preschoolers at Cross Plains Museum on the 10th. The kids in 4th grade will have our teacher's plan. Facebook and my Facebook and DAR Facebook will have Constitution Facts, one every day during that week. We'll have a bell ringing ceremony on the 15th at my home church, which is Hopewell Baptist Church, and I will also ring the bell there on the 17th. I have proclamation signings that are scheduled with the mayors in our county mayor and our city mayors have all been invited. I will read to homeschoolers at the Stokes Brown Library on the 19th. And there will be a bell ringing ceremony at the state capitol on the 22nd of this month. So there's an awful lot going on, a lot of wonderful things that bring attention to our Constitution.
Okay, and I love all that, and I love that you're going to have a mock election too.
Oh yeah.
The homeschoolers, that's going to be fun.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see where that falls, but just all kinds of wonderful things that you can do. Really work on this bell ringing thing. I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah,
haven't heard from anybody if our bell tower is working on the square, but that would be very cool if we could get that thing going and be a part of that, because I love that concept of across the nation. A bell ringing ceremony. And you said that is at 5 on Tuesday?
Correct.
5 on Tuesday.
On the 17th.
So next Tuesday, the 17th at 5 p.m., listen for bells across the country. Wouldn't that just be wonderful? When we have that,
that's right.
That combined, that combined moment this is important. Why are the bells ringing? Well, it's because it's Constitution Week. When's the last time you read your Constitution? When's the last time you really looked at the amendments? Do you know what it would mean if we had a convention of states? Do you understand any of that? So what is your opinion on that? So that was a big push whenever I was in the political ring, is we need a convention of states. We need a convention of states because we need to put some kind of term limits in. And I'm a big term limit. I like the idea of term limits. I have been in favor of that for some time. That was one of the things I ran on. But then you get into a situation too, because of the people who are employed in our states and in our federal government, that really kind of, when the new representatives or new senators come in, they're their kind of guy, and they're like, well, this is just how we do it. You want to kind of get rid of those guys too, make them rotate or do something, because that's the problem. It's not so much the people that get elected, it's the people that are there all the time that are serving the people that are elected.
That's right.
And that becomes, that's a nuance that I didn't understand when I was like, term limits. And it's like, there's so much that needs to be done to fix this stuff. I would love to see some kind of really clear amendment that could help us get the people. And we've got good leadership here in this state. We do. But to get the people who it bothers me that you have to be rich to run for office.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because you have, and that, well, we could just really unpack all that, because you have limits on what people can give you. So to really have deep enough pockets to compete, you need to spend your own money. I couldn't raise funds. I mean, number one, I hate asking people for money.
Oh, yeah.
Hate asking people for money. And so if I could have financially supported a campaign and financially competed, I would have been competitive, I believe, with all my heart. It doesn't matter. It's not what God wanted for me to do. And we've got Mark Green, John Rose, all these people. Those are the I was running for Congress. And I love Kerry Roberts, Sabi Kumar, all these, we've got great people representing us. But the problem is, for somebody that wants to just throw their hat in the ring and say, I think it's time we need to change. If you do not have, I had somebody ask me about running for something. I said, well, this is what I was told early on. You got to have this much money. Well, I said, no, you've got to have this much money because you can't compete. And it's something that I got smacked upside the head with, that I was like, well, that's true. And if we could somehow, amend the Constitution to fix that, that would be the only thing I'd want them to open it up for. And people get nervous because they're like, if you have a convention of states, then they're going to take away our rights to bear arms. You can't do that. Convention of states only gets, ratified by the state based upon what is being presented for this convention of states.
Right.
And you can't change that once it's open. And people don't understand that. People they get so, and they don't have all their information.
A lot of times it's because they've not looked at the Constitution. They don't know what's in the Constitution. Yep. And if you had a good eye on what is in the Constitution, you would understand that so much more. Yes. So much more.
And I think that's one of the most frustrating things when you're running for office, is people that don't really, they just have they have their talking points. They have their pet project. They have their thing. And if you don't say the right thing, it is such a disgrace to the people who fought and died for this country and laid it all on the line. And it just it frustrates me. And I don't know. The only way we fix it is just one moment at a time.
That's right.
One Constitution Week at a time, one bell ringing ceremony at a time. We just start, waking people up to what we have lost. And that is something we have really lost, I think.
We have. Again, Constitution Week is a reminder that we do have a document, and it is so important. And most people don't realize what's in the Constitution because they have not read it. It's not an easy document to read. If you look at the Constitution, it's written in a script and a language almost of its own.
In cursive too. Nobody can read cursive anymore.
That's right. But if you can get down into it and really look at it and try to understand it, it opens up a whole new aspect of everything about our country.
Yeah, it really does.
It really does. And so to me, it's real important.
Well, and people, when they're trying to understand it, I love reading people like Frederick Douglass and ones that, dug into it.
Yes.
And just in astounding ways. And people, when they read some of his writings, are like, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. And because he had been told it was something. If you study the life of Frederick Douglass had been told, well, this is this and this is this, and then he got to digging into it, and he's like, no, that's not what it means. And it's just so fascinating to study lives like his, to see what happens when you go, oh, I get it now.
Exactly.
And, there's just so much there. There's just so much
I do think that if you if you get interested in the Constitution, you want to understand
Yes.
it. And you look at different points of view. I do believe that these men who wrote the Constitution looked at several different things, not just the way that they wanted it, but the way that their entire group wanted it, not an individual person. Okay, that's not what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And in politics today, a lot of times, you said about term limits, a lot of times people are in a position for a long time, and just like you said, it's my way. It's my way.
Yep.
And that's not what our framers wanted when they started out here and wanted when they wrote the Constitution.
I had a politician say to me one time, and I had supported them until this point, and I was like, well, you're representing such and such and such and such, and I said, there's a reason why people are telling you this, and this is what we need, and this is, there's a point to this. Well, sometimes we just know better. I was like, wow, you just lost my support.
No,
Dad.
I don't think so.
I was just like, and I get that people don't know the whole story and everything, but you got to make us understand it, and then make us understand why you say that. I mean, because if you're our representative, you're representing us.
That's right.
And if you've got 3/4 of your people saying this is what you got to do, you're our representative. And I don't care if it is going to cause you problems at the, at the bargaining table later on. You've got to stand strong and stand up for some stuff that it's hard. Some of this stuff is hard to stand up for.
That's
But
true.
you've got to keep in mind that you're there representing the people that you were elected to represent, period. That's it.
That's it.
You're not a king. And anyway.
I do have some interesting facts about the Constitution.
I would love to hear those, Becky.
All right. The U.S. Constitution is the oldest and the shortest written constitution of any major government in the world. Okay?
Okay, that's pretty cool.
When they came here, I guess the Constitution in England was huge because everybody wanted their own way. Okay? Our Constitution is about 4,000 words long. Okay? The U.S. Constitution was written and signed at the Philadelphia Convention. I don't know if everybody knows where it was signed. The most iconic opening, "We the People of the United States," was actually used at the last minute. "We the People of the States of," what was the way that it started as a draft.
So they rewrote it right up to the last second.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Okay, so
It's so poetic. I mean, it really is,
it's true.
Yeah.
Our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, were unable to attend the Constitution Convention, and they didn't get to sign it. That's kind of amazing. The person who is noted for writing the Constitution, Thomas Jefferson, he wasn't even there to sign it.
Interesting.
Did you know that George Washington and John Adams were the only people who signed the Declaration who became presidents?
I did not.
Yeah. Benjamin Franklin, known as the first American, was the oldest American to sign the Constitution. He was 81 years old.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And he was in bad health. They had to carry
I knew he
him
was in bad health. I
in.
didn't realize he was that old.
They had to carry him in to be able to sign the Constitution. It's been said that he needed help signing, and as he did, there were tears running down his face.
Wow.
The word democracy is not in the Constitution at all. Not
republic.
even once. That's exactly right, because the United States is actually a republic. The Constitution contains many spelling errors. I didn't
know
realize that. The biggest one is when they wrote Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And that's the most noted one.
That's funny.
since 1791, the Constitution has only been amended 17 times. So we had the first amendments, that's the Bill of Rights.
Right.
Okay. And then it's only been amended 17 times since then.
Right. So they opened it up 17 times. The first
Right.
one was for the 10, and then so.
Right. Many know of the Bill of Rights, but do not know that they are actually not in the original document.
Mm-hmm.
They are, in fact, the first amendments, which were presented by James Madison in a series of legislative articles.
Mm-hmm.
And so it came after the Constitution. The original Constitution is in a display case at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. The case contains argon gas, and it is kept at 67 degrees Fahrenheit with a relative humidity of 40% because they want to preserve
Mm-hmm.
the paper, the parchment paper that it's written on.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 250 years old. In just
I've
a couple of years, it will be
more than once. But it's cool. I mean, it's
is.
really cool to be able to see the document and to see that that's the, it's just neat. It's just
It
neat to
is.
see that's where we came from. How long after the Constitution were the Bill of Rights? Was it a year?
I believe it was about 10 years.
Really? Was it that
before it was voted on by all of the delegates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I wasn't sure on that. When you mentioned that, I thought, I've never really thought about how long
Yes.
it was before the Bill of Rights came along after the Constitution. That's a good question to ask your students, but make sure you know the answer first. So,
we were a new country,
mm-hmm.
and so even coming up with the Constitution took a while.
Yeah.
And then as the states gathered together with their delegates coming together to try to decide what else do we need to do here,
Mm-hmm.
it did take a while. I believe it was about 10 years.
Okay, because then there's the Federalist Papers,
Mm-hmm.
which is the big thing that had a big impact on Frederick Douglass. People don't realize is
Right.
whenever he came in and got the explanations from the Federalist Papers, that's what helped him because he was around the time of the Civil War. Frederick Douglass was. So when you look at him, because he had people wanting him to go out and speak against the Constitution, and he's like, well, I need to make sure I understand it first.
Exactly.
Go figure. And I love his story because that's what led him to an understanding of like, oh, this was brilliant, and it's
True.
just, and they didn't like that. They didn't like that he didn't push their agenda.
But they didn't look
Yeah.
at the Constitution
go.
and find out exactly what it was all about.
Yeah.
If you don't know it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you can say, oh, let's change it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Talking with Becky Walsh, and we're just 5 minutes to go in the show, but I need to do another break. She's with DAR, the DARs of the American Revolution. We are on the cusp of Constitution Week. It begins next Monday. It will run all week. If you've got, absolutely all of us need to focus on it, especially our young people, making sure they understand why it matters, why it's important. I love the concept of the bell ringing ceremony, 5 o'clock next Tuesday. If you've got access to a church bell, a clock tower, anything that can ring that bell, man, that's just cool.
It
That's
is.
just cool. I'll ring my farm bell. I can ring my farm bell. I can get
There
that
you go.
going.
There you go.
But we need to pause for a second and talk about my friends over at Veterans Motorplex. Boy, this is one I guarantee you, Jerry. He cares a lot about the Constitution. He is that guy. He is just somebody that just really cares about our country. That's why when they took over Highland Rim Speedway, they changed it to Veterans Motorplex at the Rim, keeping that nod to the historic name, which is the Highland Rim Speedway has been around forever. It's one of the best kept secrets in Robertson County. I've been telling all people all through the season, got to get to the races, got to get to the races. It's so much fun. It's so beautiful out there. They do so many cool things. They had a big fundraiser. They had pie toss and things like that where you could hit Jerry in the face. And they had the Duncan booth. They had a great race, all this to raise money for Down syndrome this past weekend. Great racing happened, and they've got racing through the end of October, weather permitting. Get out to the races. It opens every Saturday, 4:15. A $40 ticket will get up to 6 kids and 2 adults in. That is a great ticket price. If you just by yourself, that's a $15 ticket price unless you're a senior or a veteran, and I think those are 12. But you can get out to the races. You will have so much fun. This is right there in the heart of Greenbrier, guys. 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier. If you have any questions, you can call them at 615-430-3135, 615-430-3135. Get to the races. Follow them at Highland Rim Speedway because that is where you will find out if there's a rain delay, what's happening with the races this week. But you'll have a lot of fun. So follow them at Highland Rim Speedway. Get to the races before the season ends at the end of October. And when you talk to Jerry, please let him know that you
way that the Constitution starts. And it says an awful lot in just a few words. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty, to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This gives you the gist of what is in the Constitution and what they thought of before they even started. I think it's wonderful. I think it's something that we all need to hear and to really understand that that's what the Constitution is for. So many different things. They were in a war with England. They wanted a common defense. They wanted their constituents to have tranquility where they lived. They didn't want to live in a war zone. They wanted to promote the general welfare of everyone who lived in the United States. They wanted liberty for themselves and for their future generations. It's amazing their thoughts before they even started.
I know it. And, the foundation of the country where they established the 3 branches of government, all of those things. As I'm just sitting here and thinking about how to present this to my kids, and you read the preamble, and I think we're kind of focusing, we're going to go through the amendments, but I thought, man, I need like some bullet points about the Constitution itself too.
Sure.
Because you don't want to just be like, oh, we're going to do the preamble and the amendments is like, well, what about the document? And
Yes.
so, because I think that's a lot of times we start talking about the Constitution.
Right.
I had to recite the preamble as a child. I think I could still do it. But, and then the amendments, we look at those, but I don't think we spend enough time with the actual document.
That's true. That is very true. And Constitution Week tries to make sure that you understand that it still works for us today, and you should definitely know what's in it.
Yep. Well said. And we're out of time with that. Be sure and check out all the events that Becky mentioned as you observe Constitution Week next week. Make sure you observe it. And get out and remind people that there is a beautiful foundation on which this country was built. And if we don't take care of it, we got a republic if we can keep it.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Becky, so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being a part of all the things that we have going on right here at 1100.